Well, yeah, it was interesting in that US debate. You heard a lot about manufacturing and you heard from Joe Biden, no one wants to invest in a coal-fired power station in America. And I thought, gee, that debate sounds kind of familiar. But I want to talk about tension on both sides of politics over gas and climate change policy today. So in Labor, Joel Fitzgibbon, the resources spokesman, essentially wants Mark Butler dumped as climate change spokesman. And he again stirred the pot last week, going to the outlet Mark Butler usually talks to, The Guardian, and telling it that, going on his own ground essentially, and telling it that if he does not get his way on climate policy, he will quit the shadow cabinet.
If there'd been a fair fight, and I just lost, and, you know, I can live with it politically, not my preferred position, obviously, but I can live with it, well, I'd go out there and sell it.
Okay,
if it was so offensive to me that it didn't keep faith with our traditional base and was fundamentally wrong and harmful, I would not criticise it from the shadow cabinet. I'd have no choice but to go and do so from another position.
I think this is a real ticking time bomb in Labor, Kieran. This was after the powerful AWU faction backed Fitzgibbon's position and said people should not be talking against gas, a clear shot against Mark Butler. This Fitzgibbon-Butler divide is shaping as a real problem for Labor ahead of the next election and was certainly something the government wanted us to know about when Scott Morrison made the threat to AGL and the announcement he might build a gas-fired power station at Kurri Kurri the week before last. Fitzgibbon is attempting to prevent Labor going to the next election without a medium-term target on reducing climate emissions. Sorry, he wants to prevent Labor going with a medium-term target. His threats and utterances are only going to increase, you sense. Several right-wing frontbenchers I've spoken to about it today say it is just Joel representing his constituency and the caucus should put up with him attempting to push the opposition in a certain policy direction. One said Joel would not move against Albanese as, quote, apart from himself, he does not like any alternative candidate more than he likes Albanese. And on himself, this frontbencher said Joel probably has less votes than he had 6 months ago. Here's Joel Fitzgibbon breaking out again on Canberra radio this morning, going stronger than Albanese in supporting the MUA.
Rarely will you see such a big gap between the claims and allegations of two competing parties. And when the matter comes before the Fair Work Commission today, we might get to the truth. But what I can see is that the impact of the action has been dramatically embellished by the media, and I've done my homework, don't you worry about that. There haven't been any blockages to medical supplies, and the union has made a commitment that there never will be. And while there has been some slowdown for some agricultural product, not just due to union action, but the other things happening around the port, it is simply not true to say that there is a crisis for our farmers. So we'll see what the Commission says today. But my money is on the MUA here. I think that it's Patrick's embellishing the story here, and this is the same company, of course, your listeners will remember, back in 1998, brought the balaclavas and dogs onto our wharves.
So Joel Fitzgibbon making a friend of the union movement with himself at the moment. Anthony Albanese, he gave a pre-budget address to the McKell Institute today, mentioning renewable energy and its future. He also showed how Labor wants to frame Scott Morrison as a commentator rather than a player on a lot of COVID issues because the states are handling them, almost like an opposition leader in exile, they're saying he is.
The country needs more than the person who has devolved from being the chair of the so-called National Cabinet to being a commentator on its outcomes. Far from accepting responsibility, Scott Morrison gave a big hint of what was to come with his declaration last year of "I don't hold a hose, mate." I have a plan to not only support Australians through the worst of this crisis, but to ensure the nation we all live in the future is stronger and more resilient. I want greater security for workers, new jobs in manufacturing, steps to become a renewable energy superpower.